The following is an exclusive presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for K-State athletics. This is Wildcat Insider with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, and KMAN Sports Director, Mitch Fortner.
Nice try, K-State football. Nice try. Didn't get me for a second. So I hope this is a April Fool's Day prank.
Oh, come on. Dyersville, Iowa would have been tremendous.
I'm not talking about that.
Oh, I thought that one was a pretty good one that I saw come across.
I forgot about that one. Was that actually from the official account?
No. That one was from a following account, but I thought that was a pretty good one.
No, video was just put out by K-State football. I mean, you go be the judge. I'm not, I have my 2 cents. But at K-State FB on Twitter or X or whatever is just a video looking at a barber, like a barbershop, the barbershop or whatever, a veneer. The floor, below the seat, and just locks of blonde hair falling to the floor. If we weren't too worried about, if we didn't have a governor on being a little edgy, maybe what I would have gone with Avery Johnson was, remember that picture going around of him he put on a little bit of weight, you could tell. Maybe it hints that picture, maybe put on too much weight, little belly on Avery Johnson. I think that would be kind of funny because the kid's not very big. I'm sure he's been trying to put on some muscle, but I don't know how much you could pack on muscle when it comes to Avery Johnson. Maybe that's just not the way his body works. Welcome to Wildcat Insider. It's Mitch Fortner and Troy Coverdale today. Wyatt Thompson will join us via the phone here in just a second. You missed it earlier today, though, Troy, because I was very, very soft on this prank, I guess. I could have gone a little bit more April Fool's Day, like more prank-like. But I host the bracket challenge here at the radio station, and I put out standings every couple of rounds. So I put out the new standings today, and I completely flipped everything to make it look like it was just complete chaos. I'd see how many people would notice. A few people noticed. It wasn't too crazy, but
the fact
not my best work.
The fact that you didn't include Mike Tomato at the top probably got attention.
Well, he hasn't been here all day, so because he's been in first place all tournament. He's been demolishing. Anyway, we're only with you until an hour. 5 o'clock, we'll start pregame coverage of the Royals heading out to Camden Yards to face the Baltimore Orioles with first pitch just a few minutes after 5:30. So that means pregame will start at 5 here on News Radio KMAN today and tomorrow here on News Radio KMAN. We'll get into K-State recruiting, basketball, a couple of transfers in town, plus a little baseball, a little Final Four. But now we are joined by, for one segment, as he's on his way back from Hutch, the voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson. Wyatt, what's up? I heard you had a little speaking engagement earlier today.
It was actually just a Rotary Club meeting, and I say just because it wasn't the world's biggest group, but boy, they were really into it. And it was a really neat cross-section of K-State fans, a few KU fans, a few Wichita State fans, even had one, I think, from OSU and one that liked the Sooners. So it was kind of interesting talking the state of college athletics with that kind of crowd. They asked a lot of questions. The K-State people were very pumped up about us coming back in May for the Catbacker event on the 21st. So it was overall a really good day. They informed me that they'd love to have Jerome Tang come down and maybe Chris Kleiman too. So it was a fun day.
Now it is also April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. Has anybody tried to play a fast one on you today?
Not really. And normally I get a couple. Do you?
Well, I tried to pull one today, and I host the bracket challenge here at the radio station.
Right.
And I put up a fake standings. I update the standings after every 2 rounds. And I put up a standings that basically said everybody at the bottom was now at the top, everybody at the top is now at the bottom, and just to show it was complete chaos. And 4 or 5 people fell for it. I was waiting for that one person to say, there's no way this is right. And then I would take it down and put up the real one. So that got a few people. It's not my best work, Wyatt, but it's the effort that counts, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm the world's best at those types, but I do always remember my dad's second oldest brother was born on April 1st, and everybody always tried to get him on his birthday, and it was harder than you think. It's one thing to just have April Fool's Day, but it's a lot different to have, April Fool's Day with somebody that has a birthday on that day.
Yeah, so I tried to play it tame, got to keep people on their toes around here. Wyatt, let's take a look at K-State hoops because we learned earlier today, this comes out earlier this afternoon, that we have now a third Wildcat that's going to be into the transfer portal, joining Cam Carter, who is committed to LSU, and also Dorian Finister. Now in the portal is 6'10 sophomore and Jarrell Colbert, who transferred in from LSU. He redshirted last year during the Elite Eight run, and this year we saw him start the last 13 games of the year because of David Gasson's foot injury. He took the tip-offs there to begin the game and averaged about 2.5 points a game, shot just 47.5%. Where does this range on your surprise radar and scale of him, Jarrell Colbert, jumping into the transfer portal?
I would say much like with Cam, mild surprise, but far from shocked. I think much like I would say about Cam, I would say similar things about Jarrell in terms of the type of person he is. I always got along really, really well with Jarrell. He's more of a quiet guy, kind of like Cam, but a very pleasant young man. And when you can get him in a comfortable mode where you get him to talking, I really enjoyed that. He's a very interesting young man. But I think this is, a situation where, I think he wanted more out of what he got this past year. And I think probably the coaches wanted more. I've said all along in his short 2-year stay at K-State, he has really, really good length and talent, good person, all of those kind of things. But I don't know that he has developed as quickly as he has wanted to, or maybe the staff has wanted to. And maybe a change of scenery, or maybe there's somebody out there, after him that's going to, help him with the payday. Who knows exactly? Maybe it's all of the above. But I think Jarrell will be okay.
I think, if he wants a little bit more money or at least an opportunity to try to develop and become a starting 5 guy, he may have to drop down no longer be a power 6 type of player, but he didn't improve quick enough, especially with having to jump into the starting lineup, and I thought defensively, heck of a shot blocker. That guy could block some shots. He averaged 1 a game. And I'll see if you agree with this, it was just offensively, he was going to be playing 10 to 15 minutes a game on average, even as a starter. But, shooting 47.5%, only averaging 2 points a game in that big of a position isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It is a little bit critical, but I think everybody listening would understand that that's probably the deal, right? When you get right down to the brass tacks of it, I'll be repetitive here, but I'll say it again. I think he and the staff wanted more production. And I think, to be honest, too, I think Jarrell probably needs to find another gear in terms of just how hard he plays. And if he can do that, I really think he's got a lot of great basketball ahead of him, because if you could combine an extra gear with his athleticism, I think you'd have quite a player on your hands, frankly.
So obviously, I'll get to more of this a little bit later on, but the coaching staff has had not 1 but 2 Michigan transfers in to visit. One's here right now, as a matter of fact, and Dug McDaniel, who was their best player in Michigan this last year, averaging 16 points a game as a point guard. But let's say as the current team stands right now, nobody else jumps into the portal. You have Arthur Kaluma, who will most likely test the NBA waters once again. David Gasson, it sounds like there's a good chance that he comes back. The way it's structured right now, are you feeling good about what K-State would have left to build around and recruit?
I think for the most part you would say yes to that. I think everybody saw a little bit of, each of the 3 freshmen to think that those guys are going to continue to get stronger and better as they move forward. I think you'd certainly think that of those 3 guys. You look at Arthur, who knows? I think there are several options on the table for Arthur, to be honest. One would be to stay, one would be to test the waters and come back. So I guess there's more than a couple there, but he could also, look elsewhere if he thought he would, have the opportunity to do that. And then if the NBA doesn't work, I believe he's the kind of guy that could go overseas and make quite a bit of money. So there's a lot on the table for him. But I have a feeling that, and again, no inside information here, I think that he will look at the NBA process again. But I think all things being equal, he hasn't said this to me, but I think he would probably, if it worked out, have interest in coming back for sure. And then, with Gasson, I'm like you. Who knows what the percentages are with David, but I think the coaching staff has made it clear they'd love to have him back. And I think he had a year where would you say he flourished at the end? I thought he did a really good job at the last third of the conference season, and you could maybe see him taking a pretty giant step again, or a very good step, as we go into next year if he's in the mix.
Well, I thought, his defense was pretty big. His athleticism with the ball, even from distance, driving in, making athletic moves. I thought that was a big step up from his work last year, and I would love to have David back, especially with his improvement this past season. Speaking with the voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson, as he's joining us as he is on his way back from Hutch today. All right, to wrap up here, Wyatt, I just want to ask you about the men's Final Four is set. Very interesting field. You got a couple of 1 seeds. Purdue, UConn, who's been dominant, winning games again, second straight NCAA tournament by double figures every time. They're into the Final Four. And then the non-1 seeds, you have a 4 seed in Alabama, and you have an 11 seed. I guess you can call them the Cinderella story. They're not supposed to be here, but they're in the Final Four, an 11 seed, NC State. Very interesting field. Do you still have UConn winning it all, or are you feeling somebody else?
Well, I have to be honest. I have said all along that I really, really think that the best team out there in its entirety, offense, defense, depth, coaching, all of that, I really still believe that from the beginning of the tournament till now that UConn is the best team. Now, if you look at the Final Four matchups, and they have Alabama, Alabama can probably match them in depth. I think it would be hard to match up against, say, a guy like Klingon, but Alabama's pretty gifted, and they're hot right now. They're playing well. And I'm excited to see the big boy at NC State against the big boy at Purdue, aren't you, Edie and BJ? That could be pretty cool. I'm excited about the Final Four, for sure.
You're talking like, what, how tall is Edie? 6'4" or 7'4" or whatever, and then DJ Burns is 6'9", 6'10", but he just scored 20-something points. And Edie's coming off a 40-point game. That is a very interesting matchup because, Burns, with his size, you're very surprised about his athleticism. He'll kind of catch you off guard with his spin moves, and Edie is just kind of lob it to. He doesn't throw the best moves at you, but he's just so tall that he can dunk and rebound anything.
That's well said, because I think when they do collide, or if they, I guess they will, because they play in Game 1 on Saturday. What's intriguing for me is how they guard each other, because their skill set is so different. And you laid it out there perfectly, I thought, because DJ is big body-wise, but he really can score with both hands over both shoulders. He can step out to 15, 18 feet. He's a wonderful passer. He has good post moves. And then Edie's just a big monster of a guy who just tries to overpower you in the block. He's not really, frankly, all that athletic, but how many guys do you know have a 40 and how many rebounds does he have this weekend? 18 or 50? It was incredible. He's a big man. So I'm anxious to see both of those games. But how do you not like the NC State story, right? They were talking about firing Keats, and they weren't going to win a game in the tournament. Now all of a sudden, here they are in the Final Four. It's nuts.
Yeah, they had to win 5 straight games in 5 days in the ACC tournament to make it to the NCAA. They had to do it to get to the NCAA tournament, or else they're going to maybe be NIT bound. And then, now they're off to their Final Four, the first one since 1983. And last year, the darling of the tournament, the player who was the most fun to watch was Marquise Noel. And now this year, DJ Burns, who is the exact opposite when it comes to a body and a frame. Different skill set, obviously. But, DJ just in general is very fun to watch.
Agreed. Again, and it's because it isn't just his skill set, right? He's always playing hard. He always seems to be loving what he's doing with a grin on his face. I've really enjoyed watching him, to be honest with you. I tape all the games, and sometimes I'll rewatch, bits and pieces or highlights or whatever, just to watch him again, because you do, or at least I do, have an appreciation for what he brings to the table. I'm so impressed with, their team and how together they seem to be. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, here they are in the Final Four, and there are still people that are doubting them, right? And, I think they've earned their stripes now, to be honest.
Wyatt, really appreciate your time. Safe travels continuing back from Hutch, and we'll see you Wednesday at football. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being a little bit flexible with me, buddy. I appreciate that, and had a good day. So thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
And that's the voice of the Cats, Wyatt Thompson, on Wildcat Insider. I hope he's not running into any storms or anything. We got a severe thunderstorm watch for Wabunsee.
Actually, that has been pushed away from them.
Oh, nice.
They've been allowed to catch their breath.
Well, and I was hoping it would continue to push south, let Oklahoma deal with that noise, stay away from us. So I guess the odds maybe a little bit better that we won't have any severe weather tonight. You never know, but if we do have anything pop up, of course, News Radio KMAN is your home to keep the eye on the sky and keep a lookout on severe weather. Here at the sports department, we try to keep an eye on what's going on with the recruiting in K-State hoops in the transfer portal. The latest, including there was a very tall person that arrived at Toyton Family Stadium on Saturday. More on that when we come back on Wildcat Insider. Troy, when you hear this song, where does your mind first go? Like, what's the first thing you think of?
Nothing really right away other than...
I think of The Sandlot.
Okay. This was one of those that was on vinyl in the household, so to me that's more about growing up than watching The Sandlot.
What's your favorite baseball movie?
Major League.
Yeah.
The original.
Same. Yeah, the first one. We're back on Wildcat Insider. Mitch Fortner and Troy Coverdale. Want to thank Wyatt Thompson for joining us as he was on his way back from Hutch, speaking to the Rotary Club there in Hutch. Used to go there all the time, do a little bit of ring announcing once in a while. Actually did a ton of ring announcing.
At the Rotary Club?
Not at the Rotary Club. That would be the best Rotary Club in the history of the United States of America, if that's where it took place. Nope. I forget the name of the arena. You may know this off the top of your head, as in where the national championship, like the NJCAA, where Barton just won the national championship.
Yeah, the sports arena.
Did a little bit of ring announcing there. Ric Flair used to run through Hutch back in the day. He's got some old Hutch drinking stories in his 30 for 30 documentary. Is always a good one. We'll get to a little K-State baseball here later on. We're only on until 5. That's when Royals pregame will get underway. They're at Camden Yards tonight, opening up a series against the Baltimore Orioles. Want to talk a little bit of hoops here because obviously the transfer portal's now been open for a couple of days, and K-State's been getting to work right away. Right away, in fact, that 2 recruits have been here over the weekend. As a matter of fact, I do believe one is visiting right now. Now, the recruit that visited over the weekend is Tarris Reed. Tarris Reed. Sorry, I'm getting the names mixed up here. Tarris Reed Jr., who has 2 years of eligibility remaining, 6'10" forward from St. Louis, Missouri, actually showed up Saturday at K-State's baseball game, and you had a feeling it was him right away. First of all, I had seen his picture, so I knew what he looked like. And he's walking in with the whole coaching staff. I'm like, we are watching a visit take place live and in person as they all showed up in like the middle of the game on Saturday. Unfortunately, K-State did not win that game. But Tarris Reed's a big guy. And we had talked a little bit about him last week. I've watched a little bit more film on him. 9.7 rebounds a game. From his freshman year, the numbers were looking better. His shooting numbers do need to get better, but I think just his offensive game in general does need to get better. But I love his footwork, and I love the way he plays defense. So I'm definitely game. If he wants to be a Cat, bring him on in. The Rivals ranking loves Tarris Reed. He's a top 10 player right now in the portal. I believe On3 had him as the number 20 player, and the portal's open still for another 30 days. I mean, you never know who will jump in, but as of right now, who has shown up on K-State's radar and who's in Manhattan visiting, it's off to a really good start. I just think it's a huge deal, obviously, when this coaching staff, first of all, is all in with its recruiting, but they can just get the guys into town. That's where the real recruiting takes off. And K-State, it's just, this is a group of guys. It's like, it used to be, Manhattan, Kansas, really hard place to recruit to. These guys can recruit anybody to Manhattan, Kansas. Obviously, the NIL money needs to be there. Hopefully, it is there this year compared to last year. That's a big part of this. The other recruit is also about to be potentially a former Michigan Wolverine, and that's Dug McDaniel. Just like what I just said about Tarris Reed, Dug McDaniel, according to Rivals, is a top 10 player. As a matter of fact, Rivals has him as the 4th best player available right now in the transfer portal. Last season, he was Michigan's top scorer. 16 points a game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and shot 37% from three-point range. Not too bad. He's a point guard. He's an old-school point guard. I mean, I remember out of high school, he was about a top 100 player in the nation a couple of years ago in his class coming out of Washington, D.C., playing in one of the toughest conferences in high school basketball across the country. Dug McDaniel played. And by the way, his first name is spelled D-U-G, not D-O-U-G. Cut the O, D-U-G. Doug. I like that. Is a special player, and he really got thrown into the mix as a freshman. He struggled, though, as a freshman because it was a lot happening at one time as a point guard. When you play this day and age as a true freshman, as a point guard, it is not easy. It is extremely difficult to just roll out there and look like you've been playing at the collegiate level for a couple of years. You had time to develop. I mean, you're developing on the floor, and there are growing pains. As a true freshman playing the point guard position, Day-Day Ames is a great case in point of that. Didn't look solid early on. He then rolls into the starting lineup, and he really had to grow, and he started to grow. He's continuing to grow. It wasn't perfect, but we can all agree he definitely got better. Definitely got better. Maybe the game started to slow down for him a little bit. For old Doug, it took a little while, and then he became the guy in Michigan, the starter, in his sophomore year, and the numbers got way better. Way better. Now, what also went up is turnovers, and this brings up another point about these guys and the team they're coming from. Playing for Juwan Howard, who's no longer the head coach at Michigan. They're coming off a team this past year that won 8 games. 8 total games. And these guys are also coming from a program that had to deal with some drama. It was about a month ago now. It's probably been exactly a month now, where Juwan Howard got into an altercation with his strength and conditioning coach, and then all of a sudden, Michigan did not have a strength and conditioning coach.
What? Really?
There was that drama. It was a lot of off-the-court stuff. As a matter of fact, Dug McDaniel found himself into some of that as well. And I think this had to do with the failure that was the last 2 or 3 years for Michigan basketball under Juwan Howard. Michigan, and especially this day and age because of the portal, it specifically has to do with the portal. Because Michigan has a very high standard academically on who they can even pursue to recruit. Well, Doug came in as a freshman. Academically, he wasn't doing hot, and he ended up sitting out 6 straight road games. I don't know if you've even heard of this kind of suspension where it's just road games. Can't play on the road. And when he was not in the lineup, Michigan really struggled. And then also with Juwan Howard, I mean, if we were just talking about Juwan Howard, with his recruiting and wanting to get after portal guys, a lot of them that he wanted did not fit what Michigan wanted when it came to an academic standard. And in my opinion, that's where it went wrong, and Juwan Howard just didn't adjust. Didn't make the what Jim Harbaugh did was adjust. Was still able to recruit at a solid pace, and it now just culminated into a national championship. Juwan Howard did not do that. And because of the lack of recruiting when it comes to the portal, and Michigan they had to really rely on young players. Really had to rely on young players, and Tarris Reed and Dug McDaniel were two of those guys that were top 5 players for Michigan this past year. But I think if you put the drama inside, and I'm never one to judge somebody when it comes to an academic standard. I was never a great student. I would never call myself book smart. Sitting in a classroom and just listening to somebody talk for an hour doesn't work for me. Never did. So I've never judged anybody by their academic IQ, but I will by basketball IQ. Dug McDaniel out of high school was probably praised by that more than anything, and that was his basketball IQ. And man, was that something this previous team lacked, was basketball IQ. And I'm sure that's a part of his game that the coaching staff would really like. Now, if you look at the turnovers, 2.5 points a game, first of all, is playing point guard, but also that was a contagious issue for Michigan. Man, could they really get in, like K-State, get into some really bad habits, make some bad decisions, and it was really everybody. It wasn't just a handful of players, it was kind of everybody that contributed to that. But individually, Dug McDaniel and Tarris Reed individually can really show off talent. And I think can really show off outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Outside of that drama. Outside of those, maybe some personal issues like Dug McDaniel had with academics. Good opportunity to set the reset button. I'm a fan of both, and I think it would be major if K-State can land them. But again, is the NIL money there? I think it's important they got here early. It's the early process of the transfer portal. Maybe they're looking to get this over with and done soon, and K-State's foot is in the door in a major way. So we're just in the recruiting process of this. We don't know if they're going to pick K-State or not. I know some of the experts out there feel pretty good about K-State landing at least one of these guys. Couldn't tell you which one they are because I've seen it for both, but you never know. Dug McDaniel's pretty impressive. Tarris Reed, I still go back to Tarris Reed and that footwork because you saw the same video I did.
Yes.
It's like, holy crap. Like this guy, my first thought, I was like, you can 5 out with that guy. You can get him one-on-one. He, from a little bit out in space, outside of the paint, he can work his way in. He's got the athleticism to get there. And what's also great, they're young. They've just played 2 years. They have experience. That's pretty key as young players. And they both have 2 years of eligibility. There's a lot that adds up to like, okay, this could really work. But the job's not done, obviously. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I just got more interested the more I learned about them. And so it's like, the more I learn about them, I'm like, man, I really hope this works out. But, the portal can be a tricky thing. And, of course, hate to beat this part of the conversation, but the NIL money is a pretty important part of it.
Yep.
So the athletic department as a whole has been working harder with Wildcat NIL to make that happen. I heard Wildcat NIL just reach 500 members. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty big. Well, we'll continue to watch this. Obviously, Jerome Colbert now into the transfer portal. I honestly don't have much reaction to that. It didn't surprise me. And I'm not trying to be harsh or anything or being like a major critic. I love the Cats, but I did reference last week that I felt like there might be more to come with the portal from this past team and my jump in One wouldn't surprise me, and one, it wouldn't hurt me if he did. And to be honest with you, that was Gerald Colbert. It just wasn't enough, wasn't seeing enough growth. And obviously with what you have to invest these days with these players, not to be mean, but it's not worth investing. It's just not at this point, not worth investing in. That investment, as I use the word investment, has to go somewhere else. All right, Troy, let's take a break. When we come back, let's talk K-State baseball because, man, did it get off to a good start, and, man, did it go really wrong after the first game against Texas. That's next. Make sure to get the Peacock Network so you can watch what could be the biggest WrestleMania of all time.
Oh, ho.
I know what you're thinking. Am I listening to the Dan Patrick Show? You are not. I'm giving him a free plug. Because it could be actually really good. Troy, what match of WrestleMania are you looking forward to the most?
Hulk and Andre aren't involved, are they? Darn it.
They were 37 years ago.
Yeah.
That's my weekend.
I got you.
With the Cats on the road, baseball will be in Orlando. I'll be in Wamego. Wamego has their prom this weekend.
What?
It's a little early, I think. But
wow.
It's whatever. Okay. This past weekend, K-State baseball played Thursday, Friday, Saturday against Texas. Good start to the weekend. On Thursday, they beat Texas 14-6. And then the Friday game rolled around, and
wow.
I hope I never see that again. That was, just as a spectator, I'm like, man, the defense part, the defensive part of the game, I was like, man, they don't want to win. They want a rubber match. It was really rough. Four errors, just the pitching. I mean, from Jacob Frost, Jackson Wentworth, I guess, was due for a rough day, but it got really rough there for Jackson. Like, it wasn't meant to be a good day. It was that rough. And Pete Hughes, and then Saturday where K-State lost 6-3. First of all, the final on Friday was 21-11, the highest scoring game in series history. And then on Saturday, K-State lost 6-3 to lose the series, and the last one to Texas for maybe a very, very, very long time. Saturday, there were a couple of errors. I know Owen Borma, just some bad tosses at home to first base. That was really the biggest groan I thought of the weekend was just the bad throws to try to get a guy out. Home, first base, wherever. Just airmailed it like there wasn't a whole lot of focus. Trying too hard. Was too worried about getting the ball to the glove over at first base from 40 feet away. It was just weird. This is a team that has done such a solid job in the field this year. And it's like it unraveled for a couple of games, or like a game and a half. To me, though, the big issue on Saturday in the day game that started at 2, and it was a sold-out crowd. Mm-hmm. Great crowds on Friday and Saturday. But on Saturday it was K-State just couldn't get the big hit. For once, the offense, and I've said it before, like the offense, you look up and down the lineup, there's anybody in the lineup can go up there and get a big hit. But there were multiple times on Saturday, I think it was 4, where K-State had guys in scoring position with less than 2 outs and didn't get anybody home. It was rough. They just didn't have the big play in them. Situational hitting is what Pete Hughes called it, and it just wasn't there. And then you go back to Friday, and it was just everything that had to do with defense was making mistakes. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to Saturday, we got to see the home debut finally of Tyson Neighbors, and for a couple of innings, he was absolute nails. He hit 97 on the gun. The fastball wasn't perfectly just pounding the strike zone. He did miss on a handful of pitches. And then, unfortunately, where it just kind of unraveled, and I thought maybe tainted his outing, was that he gave up back-to-back home runs. And one of them was check that. They were both solo home runs. and where K-State had made it a one-run game in the sixth or in the eighth inning with 2 runs, but once again left guys in scoring position, had a chance to rally in the ninth and get the walk-off win to win the series in very dramatic fashion. And then Tyson Neighbors gives up a couple of home runs, but still through 3 innings, 2 earned, which were the solo home runs. He struck out 3. Definitely wasn't his worst stuff, but finally he got out there at home, and it hadn't had him out there all year. I just hope it doesn't hurt his confidence, but he's a guy that really had to bounce back from an immature freshman year. Solid year as a sophomore, obviously, as an All-American. Things will settle down for him. I feel like the defense, maybe not the defense so much, just pitching in general, took a couple of steps back. 10-game winning streak, had taken steps forward, showed improvement, showed some consistency that we hadn't seen this year, and then it just got ugly in that Friday game. Missed opportunities on Saturday, but that Friday game is where a couple of steps was taken back, and you worry, is just this going to be a season of inconsistent pitching? Not sure. Did get some good news from Pete. That was that Ty Rule, who is one of 3 K-State's top pitchers. Ty Rule, who will be a weekend starter most likely, I would think, is getting better, and hopefully, sooner or later, he'll be back and be able to pitch for the first time this year. But he's still out. So pitching may be limited. Inconsistent. But can they right the ship in a quick manner starting Wednesday at Missouri State, a team that they just swept? But, of course, it's a little bit different when you go there for a midweek and you're in between Big 12 series before you head to Orlando.
Interesting that this pitching staff was expected to do some different things this year than what it's gotten off to a start. But here's the thing that continues to stand out to me, having watched this program now for 3 years while being here. The later in the season, the better the staff gets. And it's why I'm not at a point yet to get overly worried. But it will be interesting to see how it handles this weekend at UCF.
Well, and I'm not overly worried, and I still feel confidence. And I was really confident last weekend, or even heading into the series. After that Thursday win, I came in Friday feeling really good about winning the series.
Sure.
And then they just don't show up on Friday. Saturday is a grind. And K-State just didn't have enough to battle back, though they made it interesting. I'll tell you what, that Friday game was so back and forth, it was insane. And then, unfortunately, Texas exploded with 7 runs in the 9th inning. That's just what I hope I don't see again. It was just that bad. It was bad across the board. Hopefully that bad. I mean, they had enough bad in that game for a week. But I know there's good in this team. I know the talent is there. That's why I'm not like crazy worried or anything. Maybe my optimism is slightly, took a punch to the gut, but I'm
tempered.
Trying to rally, trying to rally. It's about how the team responds in this situation. And that is winning on the road, as now they're going to play now 7 of their next 8 on the road, and it's 2 Big 12 series on the road in Orlando and in Norman. Let's take a break. We'll finish Wildcat Insider next. Well, on cue, it was just announced a few moments ago by K-State Baseball. So Wednesday's game, there has been a time change, and it will now be a 4 o'clock first pitch.
Oh, my.
From Hammons Field there in Springfield, Missouri.
So we've got the double dip. Royals are early that day.
Yeah, because they start at like 12 or something like that.
Yep, 12:10 first pitch.
So there you go. You're going to have a whole lot of baseball Wednesday afternoon here on News Radio KMAN. So again, this Wednesday in 2 days, the Wildcats at Missouri State for 1. Originally scheduled for what? It was a 6:30? 6 o'clock first pitch. It's now been changed to a 4 o'clock first pitch. That means pregame 3:30 here on K-Man. Brian Smoller will be on the call for that game. All right, as we wrap up, so Wyatt and I, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the beginning of the show as we're out of here in a few minutes. Real quick, Troy. UConn, NC State, Purdue, Alabama. You taking UConn, or are you going to change your mind here and go with somebody else?
No, I am going to take UConn. They have just been so dominant. It is unbelievable what they have done in the tournament to date. It really reminds me of UNLV making their run when they were looking to get to the undefeated season, only to have it upended by Duke. But the way that season just played out, they were dominant throughout the course of the tournament to that point. And UConn, I think, can pull that off. I think that they're able to keep it going as good as they have been.
I kind of want NC State to get to the championship game. DJ Burns versus Zach Edey is going to be fun to watch.
That is true. Can we please get some fouls called on Zach Edey for once, though?
Yes, he's still steamrolling dudes, and the dude getting nailed to the floor is still getting called for the foul.
Absolutely. Drives me crazy.
There's been a video going around today of old Zach Edey going into a room with a young lady, and apparently it was after the game yesterday. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
He's a superstar.
That he is.
Anyway, if you want to attempt an April Fool's prank, just check out K-State FB on Twitter. They didn't get me. All right, that's going to do it for Wildcat Insider. For Troy Coverdale, I'm Mitch Fortner. We're back with you 4 to 5 tomorrow. Enjoy Royals baseball and go Cats.